Welcome to the F&O Podcast, the first finance and operations podcast on the CRM Audio Network, with your hosts, Katherine Alfaro, Will Dorrington, and Sean Tabor.
This episode of the F&O Podcast is brought to you by D365UG AXUG. D365UG AXUG is the world's most influential group community of Microsoft Dynamics 365 and AX users and partners. Across the globe, members share a common goal of maximizing and advancing the performance of Microsoft Dynamics 365 and AX so that individuals and companies can improve operations, overcome obstacles, and exceed goals. Check out their website at axug.com. We thank AXUG D365UG for sponsoring the F&O Podcast from CRM Audio.
Welcome to another episode of the F&O Podcast here on the CRM Audio Network. As always, our intrepid F&O explorers, Will Dorrington and Katherine Alfaro are with me. Hey guys.
Hello.
How's it going?
Lovely. How are you?
Well, our last episode was quite well received, which I was excited about. And apparently they want us to do this every now and then. So it's been a little while since we talked last, but we're back. And I had some fun kind of interactions, not necessarily with F&O per se, but with ERP. And I thought maybe that would translate well to our talking about finance and operations, right? And one of those things I thought was on the reporting side. Let me give you a scenario. So on one of my projects, we're integrating with another ERP system. And there's definitely reporting that has to go on both sides, right? So for example, an RMA is received on our side, on CE side. And we can document the RMA, we can document the RMA products and the receipts and all that good stuff. We can show when it was received, we can show any returns that happened, all that good stuff through the normal channels and normal reporting, charts, Power BI, just regular queries, etc. Is there a difference between reporting on CE and F&O? And if so, what? Because there's a lot more, at least to me, it seems like there's a lot more content on the F&O side. Am I wrong there?
No, I'd say you're spot on, actually. I think when it comes to reporting within finance and operations, the biggest weakness I've seen in consultancy, and Katherine, I'm sure you're possibly the same, you'll tell me, it might be different across the pond, is knowing when to deploy the correct type of reporting. So, because there's many ways you can achieve this. And the classic one is the misuse of Financial Reporter, which used to be known as Management Reporter 2012. So what we see there is people will actually skip using that as a statutory reporting tool and try and echo it within Power BI for some unknown reason, or within SSRS reports, all the S's there, and you're like, well, why are you doing it? You're taking the power away from the users, and and you're not giving them the flexibility to be in control of their own reporting destiny. And that is one of my biggest bugbears around that. But join in.
It's kind of funny because on my current project right now is this longest discussion between Management Reporter or BI for those financial reports and Management Reporter 1. But they're still, and it's from an IT perspective. IT is just pushing for BI, and they shouldn't really be making the decision anyways.
No, they should go with the technology, not against it. So yes, Power BI is a suite of analytical tools that really does allow you to represent your data in these rich graphic models. You can drill through, you can click stuff, you can export Excel. It's amazing, but we must remember the audience. In this case, end business users that want stuff out of the general ledger, want to be in charge of easily building blocks. So that's what financial reporting is. Grab those, the report definition, the column definition, and the row definition. Grab these together and spit out something from the general ledger. And if you like, grab in some attributes from the sub ledgers, which is your customers and your vendors. What they don't want to do is have to keep creating data models and then making these pretty drill through charts.
Well, and just to be devil's advocate for the IT folks,
go for
it. Their perspective, or at least my perspective, would be, yeah, but I have a whole group of people in my reporting group that use Power BI. So that's what we should use. They don't have that kind of mindset into the deep financial reporting aspects because that's typically another group. That's finance, right?
Absolutely, but then we can apply that to a lot of things. Just because we use something all the time, we should still make sure we use the correct version. So if we were going to a wedding and we put on a tuxedo, we could wear flip-flops. They would still work in the function of, hey, my feet aren't touching the ground and they're covering my foot and protecting it in a reasonable way. However, probably best we wear shoes because it's the appropriate form of footwear.
Power BI is the flip-flops of F&O.
Yes,
in this
exactly.
case. but it's not the flip-flops of F&O because we must remember there's the embedded Power BI experience. There's the various cash flow analysis around, the cash overview for a current company, cash overview for all companies. And these rich embedded experiences work well because they are suitable there. They are the flip-flop that suits the summer shirt and the shorts when you want to get that out. But when you're doing the statutory reporting, you're wearing a tuxedo, you need some smart dress shoes. How did I get onto this analogy?
That was a wonderful analogy, my friend.
You were just running with it.
But that paints quite a different picture between reporting in CE and F&O. We have a lot of transactional data in CE that we would want to report of. We have, sales for AI. We have customer service for AI. Or in looking at trends and that sort of thing, but to me, not really having a deep knowledge of F&O, there's many layers to the data in F&O in many different ways you could look at it from different either user profiles, business objectives, or strategies. That I guess is that what really management reporting is best at?
So remember, to realign this conversation, we're saying this from a statutory reporting. So we're saying, hey, what's my income statement? What's my balance sheet? Okay, what's my trial balance? I want to drill through each of these figures down to the account level, down to the transactional level, and then back to where it sits in the ledger itself. Of course, there are other areas of financial reporter where you will need to see rich data that sits outside the general ledger that isn't for statutory reporting. And then, of course, that's when we open a discussion to the out-of-the-box SSRS tools, the Power BI tools, and the electronic reporting tools, which is a good chat in itself. And even the open in Excel experiences, let's not discount that. So I would say management reporter or financial reporting has its place for its intended purposes. And exactly what you've just said, there are some complex relationships there, and this is the exact reason why Microsoft have provided us with this tool, because everyone needs statutory reports. And on top of that, you would also want statutory reports to look at things such as budget variances and do some sort of forecasting manipulation and other parts for consolidation. And within Financial Reporter, it provides you with those with that functionality and that set, and in an easy to digest manner. So you don't need a technical guru, you don't need an IT guy. You just go, hey, Pete from accounts, check this out, work your magic, and feel really bloody empowered. There we go.
So how do you go about that conversation with the client when you're starting up that F&O implementation? Is it an easy conversation because typically you're moving from another ERP system, or is it more challenging because it's dramatically different?
Well, Katherine as well. Do you want to answer this, or shall I take it?
You go ahead, because this is on mine.
So. To me, it's about shaping the conversation to their requirements, and then the derived benefits they'll get from each reporting set. So I wouldn't say it's a case of, of course, there's going to be a lot of new stuff, especially if they're moving from an ERP system that isn't Microsoft. But most have heard of Power BI. So I normally lead with that during a conversation because, you always like to know what you know. And then before that, and I do have clients, especially in a pre-sales environment, when you start talking about financial reporting, like, oh, but we want Power BI. And we go, yeah, you can have that. You can absolutely have that. We're not taking that away from you. But this is a tool that you're going to love even more because of the fact it's built for its intended purpose. And I'm not sure that really answers your question, but that's the route I'm taking.
No, it absolutely does. Because, and again, from just being from a purely CE perspective, all of the chart of accounts and GL ledgers and all that stuff, eyes roll back in my head and I'm sleepy time. So understanding how exactly that all works in the levels of reporting that are needed, it's because, for example, in my project, we, implementing field service and parts ordering, we're trying to build a parts ordering interface from CE into the ERP system, right?
Yeah.
And I got into conversations that started dealing about revenue recognition, inventory status, stuff I would never, ever, ever think about from a true CE perspective, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of the reporting, is there different ways to tweak that revenue recognition? Is it standard kind of thing? Is it what is it? How does that work?
So Katherine, this might be your ballpark more, especially around the inventory reports, etc. But I think we're going to start going down the world of out of the box SSRS inquiries and reporting here, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I've hung out, is whatever SSRI can provide, and then maybe tweak it a little bit. But I haven't really got into the BI side of it.
Okay. Well, so I think, and what we're trying to say there is, throughout Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operations, a bloody great marketable name that is, and within each grouping of the modules, you'll see, your standard functionality you would expect maybe from your accounts payable, your accounts receivable, but then most of the modules will have this grouping called inquiries and reports, and this is a little fast tab that groups together all the various and subgroups them all the various different SSRS out of the box reports, and there's hundreds. There's absolutely tons of them. And a common question we get in consulting is we'll have a customer go, "Oh, can you add this report?" And we go, "Well, that actually already exists. It's number 4,332. How did you not know that?" Would you echo that, Katherine?
Yeah. I think it's just a lot of people don't know what's out there, and even consultants struggle with that too. But especially with the inquiries, I mean, those can be personalized. You can query on those. Usually the more difficult ones are just the PDF format looking reports that come up, and those are a little harder to tweak. But half the time it's out there. It's just, for someone to go and find it.
And that's coming back to that classic statement, which is you don't know what you don't know. And that's why, it's good to yeah, exactly. It's good to ask these questions. Even if you're saying, "I want this, can you go and configure?" You go, "Well, I don't have to." Or unless you're a charlatan, and you go, "Of course, I'll have that done by tomorrow." Here you go.
Now, how do you find that with the out of the box built-in management reporting, do you find if you have significant enhancements to finance and operations, and maybe there aren't significant enhancements to finance and operations like in CE, does that dramatically shift your reporting capabilities, or do you have to do something specific to make that happen?
I would say if you really started playing around with some of the data entities, and this can be both positive and negative. So, I know my company, for example, has actually created further advanced general ledger entities, which allows us to reach further into the data from Financial Reporter. However, at the same time, if you start applying different aggregate measures and actually changing some of the way the columns represent, which would be really bloody dangerous, actually, especially if you think about finance and operations is heavily surrounded by the GL and the chart of accounts, then you could get to a point where it's not as easily readable and Financial Reporter doesn't work in the way it was intended anymore. But yeah, there would have to be some really weird and possibly verging upon stupid customization for that to happen. Yeah,
because I've seen with other ERP systems that when the given SI, if it's not us, goes to make a change, it's like a Herculean effort. It's like act of God that has to make that change. So how is F&O different from that, or is it?
Oh, this is a really hard question to ask. So if we place back, you're saying how hard is it to make a change to a particular piece of functionality? So we're moving away from reporting here into configuration, or
where I'm going with that is
on the report, right?
All right, say that again, Katherine.
Are you asking kind of like any customizational change, like adding fields or anything like that, how to get it onto the report afterwards?
Right. Because
Okay.
I would see, given that you have a management reporting package and it's for statutory reporting, if you make changes to the underlying data and how you're collecting that data, you have to make changes to that reporting. And is that an easy process? I've seen a lot in the past and other implementations where where the customer is not implementing F&O, where those things change, and then that's it explodes into this whole other reporting development effort. Right.
I wonder if F&O is a little more complicated, just because in CE, can't you guys, like as a consultant, personalize your own forms on your own? Like you don't have to involve any developer.
Absolutely.
I can't really do any of that. Like it's out of my hands if they want to do something.
We can do it from a table level though on F&O, so we can customize them from there. But in regards to if you started changing the data entities and reflecting that back specifically into Financial Reporter, then the frustrating thing about Financial Report, well, not frustrating actually, it works well, and I haven't seen any changes like that's necessarily requires a change to Financial Reporter, but it is incredibly rigid. So if you do get to a case where you want to bring further data in, then there is an ability to do that, but like I said, the actual out of the box part is relatively rigid, and you'd have to probably bring that in as a different data source. Yeah, so it's a hard question to answer, is what we're trying to push out here.
So that, to me, that sounds like it's more of an ERP kind of issue.
Yeah,
rather than a particular given brand.
Exactly. You'll probably move away from Financial Reporter at that point and start looking at into your more bespoke reporting strategies such as SSRS, etc., or ER.
Interesting. Okay. So is that because all of the data is so intertwined that if you push one lever, it makes all kinds of different commotion on the back end for other things?
Well, the data entity structure inside FinOps is exactly that. Yeah, it is incredibly complex. They have normalized it from how it used to be in AX 2012, and that's what data entities are. They're normalized table structures, but still, there's still a very strong level of complexity there.
So, and this is stepping away a little bit from reporting, but something, Katherine, you said, and Will, you followed up on. So your user interface forms you can or cannot modify yourself without code.
So, I mean, I guess I can personalize a form, but it's only if that table is already access to me. So I don't really, I mean, maybe Will knows it a little bit better, but I thought CE you could have access to lots of tables and add fields because this table connects to this one. And I don't see that in F&O.
Oh yeah. In CE, I can add lookup fields from other tables onto my forms, super easy.
Oh yeah, we don't have that pleasure. What they did bring in during a release this year was the ability for us to add fields onto the. It seems like we have a new member on our podcast.
Yeah. I think the garbage man drove by, so my dog was not happy.
He's probably got something sensible to say. Yeah. So we can customize an extra column onto a table. So say we're on the customer table, we can say we can have an awesome list column, and we can create our own. When I say it's not lookups, it's drop down, so we can rate people 1 to 5. We can have a free text input, but that is as sexy as it gets. That's as complex as it gets, and it's taken us that long just to get to that point. So as soon as I started learning CE, I was like, whoa, what is this voodoo magic? This is phenomenal. I can do whatever I want, especially now the CDS has come into play. Christ, it's absolutely phenomenal.
I feel like that's how CE feels. They could do whatever they want, and I'm just restrained within this cage on F&O.
Oh yeah, I mean, like
breaking everything.
Some of what Chris Huntingford does as well. I've been on his system. I wouldn't even call it CE anymore. It's just it's CH. It's Chris Huntingford's system. It's something completely different, and it does weird stuff like Chris.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is something that's really perplexing to me because whenever if we're integrating to the ERP on my project, and we when we say, okay, we need this additional field, it's like I said, okay, I need you to burn it all down, and then I need you to build it all up.
I need to re-implement, start from scratch.
And then bring me the blood of a deer. And then
exactly.
You can have it.
Yeah.
And it is that. That is what happens.
And from a CE perspective, it's like mind numbing. I don't get it. Why? How is that a thing? and other vendors though, it's even worse, right? You have to actually imagine if we had to go back to Microsoft every time you wanted something changed in F&O.
They would love us for that. They really would. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's insane. It's insane. So let's do something. We haven't talked really about any of the stuff that's come out in the October release, and I know it's almost December now, but we have some things that came out a little later, and I was looking through it for just the integration updates and some of the analytics features. And I just wanted to bounce these off you and so I can understand what this really means, right? So one of the features that came out for F&O in the October 18 release, was integration with Dynamics 365 for field service for inventory and projects. Okay? And this is saying that this phase of the integration is focusing on giving field technicians insight to inventory information from finance and operations, allowing them to update inventory levels and do material transfers, right?
That's some sexy stuff right there, isn't it? Wow.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the functionality that it lists is warehouse information, on-hand inventory information, inventory transfers, inventory adjustments, and Dynamics 365 for finance and operations projects connected with Dynamics 365 for field service work orders. So how well does that work, or have you used it?
So, and I assume what we mean by direct translation there is they've created a new integration project where they give you the sets themselves, the templates. And then, normally in Microsoft Words, we can just plug and play and everyone's happy.
Right.
Yeah. Has that ever happened?
I haven't.
I'm gonna be real quiet over here.
So I've attempted the PSA side. Okay, so I know we're talking about field service here, but the only thing I can really draw my experience on is the PSA integration. So I love talking about the stack. I especially fond of PSA and CE, and especially how that will integrate into finance and operations, project management, accounting, and all the other awesomeness that goes around the PMA. However, I went in, I had a coffee. I was a happy boy. I walked into the admin.powerapps.com and I thought, today's the day. I'm going to integrate these two. We're going to sit down as a family. We're going to have a meal. We're going to share some data. I thought, nice and easy. Microsoft said there's templates. I'll go in. I'll create a new template. I'll name it. Awesomeness, connecting the two, one big happy family. I choose my connections, okay? I choose the fact what data entities, what data area ID I want, or organization. They're okay. It's all good. I then have it all there. I have, the work orders to project contracts. And it's already done for me. Fantastic. Thank you, Microsoft. I push run. Then poof, everything just fails and I cry. My computer cries. Your dog starts barking. You didn't know why.
Will's in a fetal position under his desk, rocking back and forth quietly.
They've had to get my mum on speed dial. He's done it again. He's tried integrating. It's happened. It's gone bad. Yeah, so I tried a couple of times, and there is a guy I know. He lives in a cave off the White Cliffs of Dover, and he just has a big stick that has managed to integrate the accounts and customers, exaggerated slightly there, but he's also stopped using it at the moment. But it will improve. We know these things always improve.
Right.
Okay. So what the route I've gone down for now is CDS. Awesome. Everyone loves CDS. Who doesn't? Taking that with a Logic app or a Flow connector and then pushing that through into F&O. We can get into the argument between Logic apps and Flow and the enterprise readiness, but that's what I've done so far. And that works really well, actually, from the triggers, but it's not bi-directional because we don't have the triggers that sit inside F&O. Triggers only sit inside CE for Flow at the moment.
So the concept, the overall concept is that CDS is the underpinning infrastructure across all of Dynamics, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And is it that we're just not 100% there in terms of F&O yet? And there's too many nuances with the F&O data model?
Exactly. So when we said underpins the whole of Dynamics 365, we can say it underpins the CE side of it, and of course the Power Platform, because that's what it is. CDS is part of the Power Platform, but it misses out F&O. And obviously it has talent as well. We can't ignore that. But it misses out F&O. And F&O, if they could bring those data entities across into the CDS, I mean, that is a mammoth task.
Right.
But when that happens, then it's going to be biblical. It's going to be beautiful. I'll have a party. I'll name my first child CDS. It'll be phenomenal.
Yeah, and I could appreciate how complex and difficult that would be. And would you see yourself from a CE perspective? Let's say I wanted to integrate to F&O. Would you, rather than using that connector or that template, the integration template, would you do something more complex in terms of transforming the data or creating custom objects to house the data for a temporary state to where you could transform them? What's the answer right now?
Well, the problem you're going to have with this, Sean, is I'm not a complex nor intelligent person. And Katherine, I feel I've spoken so much. But have you had much experience?
Fine, Will.
Yeah, I'm good.
Fine.
You're the first person who's ever said that to me.
This is what happens when Will is over-caffeinated.
I've had 6 espressos.
Just let you roll with it.
So integrations. Katherine, do you want a bit of input, or shall I just go for it?
You can go for it. I mean, I've set up all these integrations myself, but when it comes to this terminology, Will, you're just killing it. I'm very mechanical. I've done it, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just following my leader.
Yeah. So the trick is actually to pretend you know the terminology, but if you say it with enough confidence, I've made up everything I've said so far. I don't even know what dynamics is.
And then you always end with, you know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
And if you do that, then they're like, yeah.
You're like, I don't want to be the guy who says I don't know what you mean.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, for me, the only stuff that I've really played with in regards to the integration, apart from the templates, is that flow or logic apps approach. So I can't really comment on other approaches at this point. You know what I mean?
But with the flow and logic apps, was that fairly straightforward for not necessarily a developer, or is it?
Oh, it's
if you're really going to do a proper integration, or is that a proper integration? I'm not clear.
You can. I mean, I did it Saturday morning, watching a bit of Gardener's World on the TV. I joke that wasn't it, but and just integrated them. I had probably about 2 hours, if that, and it was just pure ADHD kicking in, so only about 4% focus on my laptop, 12% on the squirrel hopping around outside the window, and then so it wasn't hard work, and that was a good integration. So every time I create a contract, work order in PSA, that sends over to the contract in PMA, and then the project that goes back across and pushes the project across. So that's the route I'm going down. I will continue to go down. When it gets to work breakdown structure, that's when it gets a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be so someone can just jump into it and create their own flow. I know that my current client right now, one poor guy was tasked with, learning how to flow and, taking a invoice sent by a vendor and scanning it using one system and import that to create an AP invoice in Dynamics. And, it's a little messy. He worked on it for a couple of days, but he eventually figured it out. So, I mean, I think if you have a little bit of a technical background and know all that, the scripts and everything like that, I think you could figure it out. Otherwise, my only experience with integrations was with data entities and another system, a recurring integration scheduler that Microsoft kind of started supporting right now. So, yeah.
Well, it's interesting because on another integration side topic with PSA, right now I'm running into some issues with integration to PSA from an ERP project system, not F&O. And what I'm finding, I don't know if you guys have seen this in any of your work with PSA, Project Service Automation on the CE side, is that there are attributes within the work breakdown structure that only are updated if the front end JSON is fired. So it looks like you have a complete integration from your middleware side, but when you actually open the project, you get all kinds of errors popping up with duration limit exceeded or what have you, because it's not creating the required what they called contour fields And that's, if you have like a date range, it looks at those date ranges and figures out, based on how your project's set up, what the actual duration of that time frame is. Like if your project's only Monday through Friday and it's, there's certain holidays in your holiday calendar, it takes all that out and sets it to the appropriate days. So it's interesting trying to get data from ERP to CE for sure, regardless of what the source is.
Okay.
And also trying to get the data back, which is quite entertaining as well. So, well, I think we are just about at time, and another rousing F&O discussion was had today. So,
oh yeah.
So I think next time, maybe we'll do something. Let's see. What do you guys want to talk about next time? We could talk about.
What about something really interesting like advanced taxation?
There you go, done.
No, don't do that. I do not want to do that.
And its impact, advanced taxation, and its impact across the EU. Done.
Oh no!
And
no,
we're off and running.
No.
We'll be back. We'll be back with more scintillating topics, and perhaps maybe we'll have our first guest. I think we're at about time to get our first guest and bring them into the family. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll definitely be back with the F&O podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks.
This has been the F&O Podcast from CRM Audio with your hosts Katherine Alfaro, Will Dorrington, and Sean Tabor. Check out our other podcasts at crm.audio or subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and any place else you can find podcasts. This podcast is a production of Dynamic Podcasts, LLC.